Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I want to talk today about stubbornness and kind of we throw that word around a lot. And I think it's something that causes a lot of frustration for us. I think pretty much everybody I've ever met has referred to their dog as stubborn at one point or another in their dog's life. And I think that what that means to most people, I don't know about you, but for most people, I think that means that, we're asking our dogs to do stuff, they're not responding, and then we just refer to them as stubborn. So it's, hey, come here, and my dog doesn't come. Oh, he's being stubborn. Or, hey, sit, and my dog doesn't sit. Okay, he's being stubborn. So I think most people are kind of looking at it in that regard. So I'm not sure how you are potentially thinking about it, but that's to summarize it, that's where I'm going with this. Um, there's so much to say about it, but I want to start off by saying that I think if we in general kind of take a step back and stop and think, okay, what do I want my dog to do? And think about why isn't he or she doing it? So let's say I've got Rosa lying on the couch behind my screen here. She's comfortable. She's lying in the sun on a blanket. She's very, very comfortable right now. If I wanted her to come over here and sit so we could do something, if I said, hey, Rosa, come here, and she didn't come, what would I refer to that as? Would I say, hey, Nancy? Would I say, oh, she's being stubborn? Would I say, hey, mom, happy birthday? Would I say, hey, she's not listening because she is on the couch and she thinks she's in charge? I mean, there's a lot of things that we could say about it. But I think the way that we could really look at it as if I call my dog Rosa and she's on the couch and she's comfortable and she doesn't come to me, it's simply because she's not motivated to come. So her motivation lies over there, quite literally lies on the couch. That's where she's at, and the warm sun on a blanket. So to come to me when I ask, if she doesn't come, a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, your dog's being stubborn, or she's being stubborn." What I would say is that I actually have a motivation problem. So if she's over there and she doesn't come when I call her, it's a motivation problem. In some cases, it could be a lack of understanding. I would say in this exact scenario, if I called Rose over, she's understands, we've done that a gazillion times. It's not a lack of understanding, but it would be a motivation issue. Now, but let me use the same example. I very high probability that I could get Rosa to come over to me right now, because the vast majority of times when I do call her over to me, she's rewarded for it. If I were in the habit of calling her over to me and then not doing anything with her, or even worse, calling her over to me and doing something she dislikes, her coming over to me behavior is going to decrease. It's going to start going down, 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 because she's going to say, every time you call me, you dig in my ears and look for something, or you start examining me, or something to that effect. So if you're doing something a dog doesn't like, it motivates them to not come to you. So, but with Rosa, for example, the vast majority of times when I call her, she gets rewarded most of the time with food, and I don't really call her for nothing. So, like at this point, I have no reason to call her off the couch. So I just wouldn't do it. But in the evenings, back a year ago or so, I really had to focus on getting her to go outside to pee before bed. Turns out she's having some incontinence issues, and medication is really the solution for that. But so I needed to get her out, and especially in the wintertime, she really did not want to come out. Her motivation was like, "Nee, I really want to stay on that couch." And so, what were the options for me? If I said, Rosa, come, and she didn't come to me, then what do I do? Do I say, oh, well, she's just being stubborn, she won't come to me? Do I go over and physically pick her up? Well, with her, I physically could. She's like 50 pounds. I can do that. But if she were, a Great Dane, you can't pick them up. So what are the options? Well, what I went with was, okay, let me ask you to do a behavior that I have seen you do a gazillion times, and one that's been rewarded pretty much every single time. So I went with touch. Touch is a hand target. So you would say touch and put your hand out, and then they come over, touch your hand, and then I would reward her for it. And that motivated her to come to me more and more and more. Um, so I'm human, if you can't tell. But back then, this was like a year or two ago, I know my mindset was like, oh, why won't you just come for me? Just come. I don't really want to have to reward you. Like, I mean, we're all human. And we oftentimes just want the easiest thing for us at the same point. So we don't necessarily want to have to go through the extra steps of always having to reward or something like that. So I mean, it is important to set yourself up for success. I've got a treat jar on my desk. And so if I really needed her to come over to me, like whenever I'm doing a private consult and I need her to demonstrate something, I ask her to touch, she comes over, touches, I reward her, and there we go. We're in action. Or, also for her, I want to use another example. If it is sunny outside and it is warm out, I can say, Rosa, come on, let's go outside. And she'll go full speed. She's not, complying with my request full speed this time just because she feels like listening to me. She knows that outside is very, very warm, and it's like, who doesn't want to go outside when it's very nice out? So she's going to do it quickly. But when it's nasty outside, by all means, the motivation isn't there. So she's quickly going to say, I don't really want to. So then you have to motivate. So let's kind of think about dogs as, I don't want to call them, they're not people, obviously, but as animals, we are animals, they're animals. We all learn the same. We learn by consequences and we learn by association. I think if you go through your daily schedule and you look at every single thing that you have to do, there is something that motivates you to do the things that are in there. Possibly you're like, okay, I got to go to work at 9 o'clock. Well, why do you go to work? Maybe you really enjoy it. Maybe you're going because you don't want to get fired. You're doing it because you need the paycheck. Why do you brush your teeth? Well, I brush my teeth because I don't want to lose my teeth later on in life, or I don't want to have cavities and then have to feel the drill going into my teeth, or I just want my teeth to look nice. So every single thing that I do is motivated by something. Why do I vacuum the house every day or almost every day? Because I don't like having dog hair everywhere. Um, why do I open the blinds when it's sunny out? Because I enjoy having the sun come in. So every behavior that you do or I do, there's motivation behind it. So that being said, if we take animals and we put them in their natural environment, they don't do any single behavior unless it makes sense to them. If Rosa was outside living her life out there, and she's lying in the sun, she's not just going to get up randomly and go over and say, hey, what's going on over there? She's going to stay in the sun and enjoy it, unless she's hungry, unless there's, prey drive kicks in, which would fall under pretty much hunger in most cases. There's going to be something motivating her. So dogs or any animal doesn't do something for nothing. So if we think about it, let's start thinking of it that way. So why don't we look at our dogs as normal animals and say, okay, how do I get my dog to do what I want them to do? Let's use motivation. So it's basically, hey, I need you to do this. Something is in it for you, something good will happen. Or in other cases, it's, hey, I need you to do this. And if you don't do it, something you like will be removed. So for example, you walk in the door and your dog jumps all over you. And you're like, hey, sit. Hey, I really want you to sit. Sit, please. Sit, 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 sit. And your dog doesn't sit. Is he or she being stubborn? Or is your dog just overwhelmed with joy and just jumping and having trouble sitting because they're so happy? So if we use that as the example, what do we do? Well, one, we work on a sit, of course, but then we also can remove ourselves if the jumping happens. So if I walk in from work and I'm getting jumped all over, I can say, oh, too bad, and step back out the door and shut the door. And that's going to be a way to start communicating that, hey, if you sit, you get me. If you jump, you'll lose me. And so if we're thinking of it as, hey, my dog's being stubborn, he or she won't sit when I ask, we can just take that part out of the equation and say, okay, what can I do to get the behavior to happen? So it really comes down to the balls in our court. They're going to do everything that comes natural to them, which listening to humans is not a natural thing for any animal. We get them to listen to us by leveraging things. So all the training that we do with animals is all about leveraging something. Either leveraging, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to train. We at All Dogs Go to Kevin motivate by providing things that a dog enjoys when they do the right thing, the thing that we want, or we remove things that the dog enjoys when the dog does the wrong thing. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's the way we choose because it works very well, and there aren't really any negative side effects with it. We're not hurting or scaring dogs. Nancy, does clicker training work? No, clicker training can work great. But the click in general will eventually, like, the clicker won't do anything in the long run, because if the clicker doesn't always predict something good, the association with the clicker will decrease and just fizzle out. And then you could click all day, just in general, in case anybody's wondering, because sometimes people, in some cases, there's a misconception that if you have a clicker, you can click and then that will eventually take the place of the reward. Point being, though, if in the long run all the rewards dry up, the association will be gone. But so think about things that your dog does find to be motivating. There's plenty of things in the environment. So if your dog loves to bolt out of the door, that is a reward in itself. So we can say, hey, let me get you to do this behavior instead. Or if your dog likes to greet people and likes to jump, we can say, hey, let me have you sit instead. So everything that they do naturally, though, is motivated by something. And anything that we want them to do, it needs to be motivated. We need to motivate them. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense for them to do it. So that being said, I love to use food because I mean, these are, the cereal kicks. If anybody's familiar, it used to be, now it's like parent tested, kid approved or something. Well, my son didn't really like them. So, but my dogs do. And these are something that I use in the house. I would not bring these outside with me. They wouldn't really do anything outside. I wouldn't expect a dog to work for kicks outside, but inside, I mean, if there's nothing going on, most dogs will probably work for kicks. So that being said, I use those to reward little behaviors that I'm asking for. Um, so I'm at the ready. I've got one here. I've got one at my back door. And I'll tell you all what, here's a little trainer secret. When I call my dogs in, I reward them pretty much every single time. And my dogs come in quickly when I call them because of that. Um, if I were to, call my dog over and over and over again and they're not coming, and then I'm just like, well, he knows what I'm asking, but he's just deciding not to. Well, I mean, sure, he's not motivated. His motivation is, let me hang out outside and enjoy the all the smells and the critters that I can chase. So I get, the point I'm trying to make, which I think I've said it multiple times now, but hey, repetition is important. The point I'm trying to make is we have to change our behavior to change our dog's behavior, and we need to provide motivation. Motivation is what's going to drive the behavior, which is going to get us what we want. And will work for kicks. Yeah. Motivation is going to drive the behavior, which is what's going to get us what we want. And the moment that you don't motivate your dog and you just try to say, hey, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, it's going to drive you crazy. It's not going to work very well. And it's just not going to be very efficient. So our dog's stubborn. I don't even think people are technically stubborn. I'm sure someone could prove me wrong there, but like if my son is almost 4 and anything I need him to do, what do I expect from him? Do I expect, hey, Dexter, come here and sit on that couch for a minute, please? Maybe he'll do it. And maybe I'm lucky if he does that, but like, why should he? He's a living, breathing being. So for example, hey, Dexter, we need to get ready for school. That's a hard one. He doesn't, now he likes going to school. So his motivation is there. He wants to get dressed. He's ready to go. But if I'm asking him to do something he doesn't want to do, like, hey, Dex, we need to clean up your toys. And he's like, no, I don't want to. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I don't really want to clean up your toys either. But here's what I want you to do. Either we can pick up your toys now and we can do it together and make a game out of it. Or, you can go to bed early and let him choose. And so instead of me just saying, because I said so, because I said so, because I said so, Kelly and I, we say, okay, well, you have a choice. You either do this and this is the outcome, or you don't do this and this is the outcome. And it's really the same thing for our dogs. I could look at my son Dexter and say, dude, you're being stubborn. But really, he's just being a normal child that is either motivated to do the thing that we're going to potentially do or not motivated. So across the board, that's what we kind of need to remember, is that animals don't do something for nothing. There's no reason. I think, that being said, there's a lot of dogs out there that are a lot easier to motivate. And if you have a history of rewarding them quite often, they're definitely going to be more responsive in situations. Whereas if you're not rewarding them as frequently, they're not going to be as responsive. And the dogs that are easier to motivate, that they are easier to train because they're easier to motivate. Where dogs that are less easy to motivate or are more challenging to motivate, then it is going to be a little bit more challenging. But you got to get creative, find different things to motivate them. And whatever you're trying to ask, break it down into small behaviors. If I'm really working on coming when called in the backyard and Rosa just isn't paying attention to me, what's something I could get? Could I go over there and get her to look at me? Could I reward her for that? Great. Could I reward her for taking a few steps toward me? Great. Could I then add more steps on? Just something to that effect. So this is all about trying to make you your lives less stressful. So if you stay proactive, focus on motivating them, and think about, okay, what is it that I'm asking you to do and you're not doing it? Why aren't you doing it? Oh, maybe it's because they're not motivated. In some cases, they simply don't understand. But if it's something in day-to-day life that you're asking for in your house all the time and they're just not doing it, it's probably due to lack of motivation. So there you go. That's that. All right. So your dog's not stubborn. You are. Just kidding. No, your dog's not stubborn. They're just being a normal, living, breathing being. And all they want to do is whatever makes sense to them. So again, if you need them to do something, focus on teaching the behavior, focus on rewarding those behaviors, and just focus on leveraging things. So if you do this, great, you can have what you want. Or if you do this, oh, sorry, you lose what you want. They'll start listening to you a little bit better. If y'all need any help, let us know, reach out. But basically, I'll see y'all next week. Have a good one. Talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.